This morning, I woke up and immediately opened X, as I always do, and the first thing that showed up was this tweet from Cern Basher, and it absolutely blew my mind. He shows why Tesla Energy is growing faster than the Q4 earnings report suggested. Twice as fast, actually. So you're probably thinking, how can that be possible? Well, let's dive into it. Cern Basher writes, digging into the growth in Tesla Energy, it appears to be even stronger than reported. Reported revenue in 2023 rose 54%, but indicative revenue, my term, rose 125%. So indicative revenue for Cern Basher is the yellow bar in his graph right there, and we're going to get into what indicative revenue is. And you can see the green bar, which is the reported revenue, is actually kind of flat from Q3 to Q4. So again, the reported revenue for Tesla trailing 12 months rose by 54% to $6 billion. But this only tells part of the growth story, as Tesla also collects deferred revenue and records unsatisfied performance obligations. So Tesla's reported energy revenue plus the growth these two items, the sum of which I'm calling indicative revenue, can provide important clues for future reported revenues, as growing deferred revenue and unsatisfied performance obligations balances will eventually be recognized as reported revenues. So here's the big point. Cern writes, indicative revenue. 1 year ago, Tesla Energy had $4.4 billion in reported revenue plus growth in deferred revenue plus growth in unsatisfied performance obligations over the previous 12 months. This was only $522 million higher than the $3.9 billion in reported revenue. So this means that the indicative revenue was only $522 million higher than the reported revenue last year. But if we fast forward to Q4 2023, Tesla Energy had $10 billion in trailing 12-month reported revenue, plus growth in deferred revenue, plus growth in UPO over the previous 12 months, up 125%. So this measure this year is now $4 billion higher than reported revenue, and it was only $500 million higher last year. So comparing revenue growth of 54% to indicative revenue growth of 125% tells us that Tesla's energy business is accelerating. This is because the $4 billion difference between reported revenue and indicative revenue is money that will become reported revenue in the quarters ahead. Remember, these mega packs that Tesla are selling cost $1.5 million, and they take a long time to install, and oftentimes businesses can't pay all of that up front, so these contracts get extended over several quarters. But this indicative revenue number is really helping us understand the true growth of Tesla Energy. So if you want the definition of deferred revenue or unsatisfied performance obligations, you can pause the video and read those there. But the main point is that over the last 12 months, deferred revenue has increased by $737 million. And also over the last 12 months, the unsatisfied performance obligation balance has increased by $3.2 billion. So that's where we're getting that $4 billion increase in basically future storage contracts for Tesla Energy. So it's clear that Tesla Energy is growing like crazy, and Dr. Jack replies and says, "Thanks for the deep dive, Cern. The numbers will be much greater once the China Megafactory gets up and running." That's a good point from Dr. Jack. We've been seeing these amazing growth numbers from Tesla Energy just from the Lathrop factory in California. But once Shanghai comes online, we can still see mega growth for the next couple of years for Tesla Energy just on those two factories. And speaking of Lathrop, Alejandro has a good reply. He says, Tesla doesn't tell us Lathrop's rate of production, but after 2 years of ramp, I couldn't understand why revenue was 30 to 40% of Lathrop's capacity. The indicative revenue, however, would indicate closer to 70%, which translates to a still higher rate of production. And Drew Baglino confirmed on the Q4 conference call that Lathrop continues to ramp through 2024 with the operation of a second final assembly line to double capacity from 20 to 40 gigawatt hours by the end of the year. And here's an awesome spreadsheet made by this Matt character who says, "Glad I'm not the only one paying attention to deferred energy revenue. Here's a spreadsheet I made. Revenue has stayed flat, but deferred revenue has grown $3.2 billion. If you look on the left, revenue is basically flat for the last 6 quarters, but deferred revenue in millions is growing like crazy from $150 million to 3.4 billion. This spreadsheet is a testament to the great demand for Tesla's energy storage services. They've gotten so many clients, they've gotten so many contracts, they're not able to actually deliver to all of them, and their backlog is growing larger and larger and larger, as you can see. And that's really manifested in this graph. Look at Q1 of 2023, $1 billion in deferred revenue. Fast forward to Q4 of 2023, and you have $5 billion. No Wall Street analysts are talking about Tesla's energy growth because if you look on the Q4 report, it looks flat across the line on revenue. But when you dig deep, as Cern Basher has done here, we see the true story, the crazy demand, the crazy backlog for Tesla's energy products. Michael responds to this graph and says it's all about the battery supply, crossed with the building and ramping of Megafactories. It might not be this year, but possibly next year that Wall Street outlets wake up to this realization. Might cause a jump in Tesla when this gets wide recognition. It will also be interesting to see if and how auto-related revenues continue to grow over the next 12 to 18 months ahead of the compact vehicle launch, and if energy becomes more of an equal weight story before then. Cern replies to Michael and says when Tesla sells 40 gigawatt hours of energy storage at some point, not in 2024, assuming an average price of $410,000 per megawatt hour, that's about $16.5 billion in revenue. Even at that level, energy revenue might only be about 15% or less of total company revenues. The energy business then has a wide open path ahead. Tesla needs to build more of these megafactories. So let's put this tweet into context. Cern is saying that when Tesla sells 40 gigawatt hours of energy storage, that will be about 15% of the company's revenue. 40 gigawatt hours is what the Megafactory in Lathrop's capacity is. So once they double that with Shanghai, that's going to be 80 gigawatt hours of energy storage capacity that they can sell, which is going to be 30% of the company's total revenue. 30% of the company's revenue today, that is, which would be about $33 billion in revenue from Tesla selling about 80 gigawatt hours of energy storage. And let's say they announce another megafactory soon, that's going to be 120 gigawatt hours, and now you're at what, 45% of your company's revenue today? So yeah, Tesla does need to continue to make megafactories. There's a lot of demand, and Tesla Energy needs to begin to be taken seriously. So let's take a look at the megafactory. Let's meet one, because I've never met one before. The largest utility scale battery factory in America, where they produce the Megapack, the $1.5 million product that you're never going to buy. Add clean energy storage to the grid quickly, all while reducing reliance on fossil fuels. That's the big idea. Megapack XXL is our biggest yet with integrated power electronics, and I couldn't read the rest of that, but it enables simple integration and improves stability and uses the same core thermal components as Tesla vehicles. That's pretty cool. Ensuring Megapack can operate in some of the harshest conditions. And I was hoping there would be something else for me to say. Megafactory can produce 1 Megapack every 68 minutes, and 10,000 units are produced every single year, adding up to 40 gigawatt hours of storage capacity, as I said previously. This is equal to 50 200 megawatt fossil fuel plants. So join us. Yeah, guys, I'm going to apply. I'm quitting my YouTube channel. I'm going to manufacture some energy storage components for Tesla. And I'm going to remember that they were also used in automotive, which is pretty cool. Anyways, guys, go and follow Cern Basher because he helped us understand that vital information today. And also subscribe to me because I told you about that vital information. And I told you it fast. You know, I told you it really fast. So yeah, outro music.